Hi everybody and welcome to Cause and Effect, a show about Vetes. Today we have a special episode, an interview with Johannes Walsh, the chairman of the Viken, that is the players organization which do all sorts of things, try to keep the game alive as much as possible. So say hello, Adam.
Hello.
And Johannes.
Hello.
Was the introduction correct?
Absolutely.
Anything you want to add?
No.
No.
I'll appreciate the offer that you guys made, and I very much look forward to doing this.
Great. So we just want to point out that we're here to try to straighten things out and try to just make this interview basically for information and clarity and so those kinds of things. So that's our purpose with this interview, so to speak. But we should start off softly by talking about Vetes. And we usually ask how the Vetes week has been for you two. So I'll start with Adam. How has your Vetes week been?
Yeah. I was in Denmark for this weekend, and I had a few casual games yesterday. I think the Denmark tournament report thingy we'll talk about in some future episode. When it's a more regular episode, we might go in depth about what happened there. But I'm really happy with my results there. And I had really fun yesterday because I was playing a Blood Brothers deck 3 times.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Johannes?
Yeah, Johannes, how have your Vetes been lately?
Well, my Vetes, my last couple of Vetes weeks were really a lot of invested in the VKN, and I probably didn't play a game for months or so.
Okay.
But I did some deck building, and I'm looking forward to playing this week.
Okay. Casual game or tournament?
Yeah, no casual game.
No casual game.
Actually, the last time I played was in a tournament in Germany, which our new German resident Ferenc Vasadi won.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Just a second. The state chats. The chat states there is no sound.
No sound from me.
No sound at all.
Yeah. It says, is it just me or is there no sound?
There's sound outgoing from my end. Let me switch to overlay and see. There's sound outgoing from... Yeah, I hear myself from the stream. So it must be some error on this person's end then.
Okay, sorry about that. We'll go on. Do you want to shed some light on what deck you were constructing? Just a hint?
Well, I'm currently in the last tournament. I played a Ventru deck with no disciplines, mostly, and I'm currently on the no discipline spree.
Okay, do you play a lot with Veil of Darkness and Slow Withering?
No.
No. Okay.
Just no disciplines.
All right.
Oh, cool.
Intriguing. There's a German Nationals not coming soon.
Our qualifier upcoming in April.
Okay, you're going there?
I'm going there. Yeah.
Gonna win the whole thing?
I hope so. I totally botched the last tournament by playing the wash on some perfectionist and not on the life boon I knew my predator was holding, so stupid.
Was it one of those brain farts that happens?
Well, yeah, it does.
Okay, how about you, Isaac?
Yeah, same for you, except for the Blood Brothers. I went to Denmark and it was great. Very well-organized tournament from Christian Islev, Nikolai Wendt and Jesper Böje. Was a great event. 33 players one day and 22 players the other. But as Adam stated, we'll be going in depth at some later time, hopefully. Other than that, it's been great. And now we're here with the Vetes TV, the best TV in the world. So, maybe should start in the right end. This whole thing started with a public letter maybe you, Johannes, could bring the viewers in on what have happened.
Yeah. So as the viewers should probably know, we're have announced that we're developing a new set to be released in a special online format. You can read all about it on the vken.net site. And of course, we are developing that set at the moment. And there's a development team, and there has been tension building in the development. And one of the members, he felt like his only option at the moment was to just leave the team and put everything in public and try to, I don't know what the intention was, but he felt that's the way to go, and that's what happened. So a lot of the internal communications and discussions within the design team and the inner circle came out, and a lot of the forum users had questions and had their own views, and so we decided, or you decided, to invite me to this question and answer session, and I'm very happy to do it, to maybe shed some light on some of the questions that the people have.
Yeah.
Before we go on, maybe we can say that if there is some interest in having some other voice in answer to this later on, someone else who needs to be interviewed for this particular reason or any other reason, please mail us and tell us who would you like to see invited for an interview like this or something similar later on. So,
yeah, exactly. So here where we stand today, and there's been a lot of talk. One question we've gotten is, or a lot of people have talked about, what, in your view, is the difference between a non-profit organization, say like VKen, the volunteer work, and the company that works for profit? What do you think is the difference in your view? Well,
the essential difference is that people don't get paid for it, and so their livelihood doesn't depend on it, because usually if you have a job, your livelihood depends on it. So this has two effects. It's a totally different kind of motivation in a volunteer organization. Because if you have a job, you get paid, and that's your number one motivation. Maybe it's a fun job too, but number one motivation is getting paid. Mm-hmm. And in a non-profit organization, well, there's no pay, so you have to find some other kind of internal motivation, and as on a personal level. And if you see it from a management, I call it, level, it's exactly the same thing. So the members of the organization don't get paid, so you cannot rely on them just doing things because they have to, but you have to motivate them to do them, and there needs to be fun, basically. Volunteer work is mostly about fun and about enjoying yourself in your spare time.
So why do you think there how is this affected your role in organization? This fun motivation part of your position within this volunteer organization?
Well, it's definitely harder, I'd say, for someone who has to sit at the top a bit, because you can't just make people do something. You have to be the master of compromise, really. I have to take in all the opinions, and every decision I make has to be a compromise, and I have to I even do decisions which are not really my opinion. I think something else is better, but an overwhelming number of people thinks it isn't. So I'm trying to distill that information and to make a decision, really. So that makes it very different, and it's also, all I can try is to feedback some kind of positive vibe to the people, so they do things. And what's also very difficult is that you have people commit to things, to actions, to responsibilities, and then they have their life and their job, and something happens, and all of a sudden you lose that commitment naturally because the life goes first. So it's a very difficult. It's very difficult to have a good continuity because always something comes in the way, and Vitas is rarely the #1 priority.
Does this cause problems when recruiting people for positions, say both the inner circle and like the design leaders or the designers or maybe even the playtesters, that there's not lots of people who actually have the time and have the motivation?
It usually doesn't create a problem when you recruit them, but it creates problems when they're not there anymore.
Okay.
And often you don't know. I mean, they just disappear for good reasons, but for you the effect is they're just not there anymore, and you have to deal with it quickly, and oftentimes difficult situation. And that's one thing that happened to us here. I mean, if you read what Jeff posted, one of the problems was that one of the guys committed at first and participated, but then he couldn't anymore, and then he came back, and a lot of problems started. So that's a typical volunteer problem.
Do you think, or rather, how do you think that the Beacon specifically should deal with the issues of like people in positions of responsibility lack their responsibility? What would be the correct way to go about it?
That's a very difficult question. There's no correct way to go about it. You have to weigh in really the facts, what happened, and then you have to see, does it make sense that that person goes on, or doesn't it make sense? And even if you think it doesn't make sense that he goes on, you have to be very compromising and nice in your way how you communicate this. You can't just go ahead and say you're fired, because that's maybe that person gets angry, and then he starts to post angry stuff, and then you have a divided community, and then that happens again, and in the end you have 1,000 islands and not one community.
So so it's important for you that the Beacon and the Vitas communities stick together? Am I interpreting this correct?
That's very important for me, and that's what I try. I mean, if you read the forums, you know, there's always some guys who are very negative, and it's the right to be, but I try to value the opinion of those guys as well. I mean, sometimes I'm emotional too, and you know, like for a moment you have enough, and you say, "Come on, guy." Well, what are you talking about? But generally, I try to value all those opinions as well.
Okay, great. We're talking about a bit about the inner circle. What is the inner circle, and what are their duties, so to speak?
Well, the inner circle is really a selection of people that have a specific function, like ratings coordination or rules coordination, and also the inner circle is like a deciding body if it comes to very difficult questions that for example, I wouldn't decide alone. So if there's something, you know, something to decide, and it's really hard to define from the beginning what that might be, but if there's something to decide, usually the inner circle takes that place. And also the inner circle is the core organizational unit of the VKN. So
would it be fair to compare the IC to, say, the cabinet of a government or the parliament?
Sort of, yeah. Yeah.
That's a basic idea, so to speak. Just to put it in more easier to understand terms. Yeah,
it's pretty good actually, because that's a lot how it works. Like, everybody has its own resort, but if there's a very general issue, everybody gets together and has to find some consensus.
So a question that's been asked is, what criteria was the IC members selected by? How did that process go about?
Well, it really depends on the individual members. So there's me. I was sort of elected by the national coordinators when we had a meeting in Paris when a lot of national coordinators were present.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Robin, the rules coordinator. She has been the rules coordinator for forever. So
ratings or rules?
Sorry, the ratings.
Okay. Just checking.
The ratings coordinator. So she's been that forever. So it seemed like a logical choice. Then there was the ratings coordinator, which is Pascal Bertrand, and to be honest, not a lot of people were qualified for that position. And in qualification, I mean they had to have a record of showing interest for rules, and had to have a record of multiple online or massive online posting about it. So we're basically down to 2 or 3 people who really could do it, and Pascal was the only one who was really enthusiastic about it. So,
but would the rules coordinator actually need to have a say in weekend policy? Would it have been possible for any of these positions, not only the rules coordinator, of course, to not be a part of the deciding body or governing body of the organization?
Sure. I mean, it was just maybe an idea of being effective. That you have those people anyway, and let them just form this deciding body, so it's effective, and we don't have 100 people for, I don't know, the same thing, really.
So it's a problem of man hours as well, that you can't have. There's not enough people that can work with this much, or.
No. This is more like there are not a lot of those inner circle questions. There's maybe 1 per year, or 2. So you wouldn't want to have 5 or 6 extra people to address 2 questions a year.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
That's just not effective. And so so back to the people. There's Renes, who's the web coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
He sort of stepped up and took care of the web thing. So that's why he is there.
What as a web coordinator, what does he do? What does that include?
The main responsible for taking care of the website, where to put a news article, to assign people to specific tasks, like update the software or configure something or change. He takes care of the structure of the site and so on. He's the general project manager for the website.
Okay, so he's okay.
Site is our main medium of communication. It's obviously very important.
In which criteria were he elected by?
He wasn't really elected. It was like when we started the website, it was basically 3 guys. It was him and Jussi and me, and then Emiliano joined very quickly. He's the national coordinator of Italy, and basically there wasn't a special qualification. It was just his interest into doing those things, and his continued contribution to put things online and to improve the website and to put content there. It's a very boring work, mostly. So I was basically happy to have someone, and being a long time friend and having worked on many projects together, I knew he was very dependable. So, and that has proven until today.
You have had work experience, so to speak, from within the weekend since before.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a storyline coordinator. Is that true?
Exactly.
Or IC member.
Yeah, it's Eric Cheng. Well, it's quite important that the storyline events to a part of the player community. And when Ben Swangbank wouldn't want to do it anymore, it was Eric who stepped up and who showed a certain talent and interest into the canon and into writing those stories. And So he was coming up with stories and with text and with lots of ideas, and nobody else was. So he was the natural choice again. It's like that quite often in the VKN, that you don't have 10 candidates to choose from. You really just have one guy, and that's it.
But most of these people were like famous for, well, maybe not famous, but they were like front figures in the VTES communities from before. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What kind of work do the marketing IC member do? What's his role?
His role is really to go a bit beyond the website and take care of things like Facebook and all those kinds of communications that go outside of the website. And if there's, a statement to write, or if there's, for example, we have the VKN, the State of the VKN letter. I draft it, and he puts it into a nice letter, and it's, yeah.
How about the State of the VKN? Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, we had a discussion at the end of last year where people asked and more news from the VKN. So I said we're going to do a quarterly installment on the 1st of January, April, July, and October, and it's going to be a State of the VKN, like a bit of a newsletter, what goes on, what's new, and where we are generally headed. So you've seen the first one on the 1st of January, and we're going to have the next one on the 1st of April.
Okay, so it's a quarterly, not report, but as you say, a newsletter, so to speak,
Correct.
About the organization itself.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I have to... someone asked here about the VKN. What's the most important goals for the next year, or 3 years, or 5 years? And the person who asked this would like measurable goals. He gives an example for recruiting X new active members, or hold the Y qualifiers, etc. Do you have any such goals for the VKN?
Yeah, there's a couple of those goals. One of those goals, I'm going to go long term and then short term. So
okay.
one of the long term goals for the next 5 years is to have a continental championship in Europe and in the US for each year, and a decent number of qualifiers, which means having a qualifier in every country where there's substantial VTES activity. So that's a long-term goal. Then another long-term goal is to keep the game and the VKN and the website and everything going as it is. Because without a company to support it, that's can be difficult. And maybe the last long-term goal is to find some publisher or some way to get this to be a live game again.
How do you go about trying to find a publisher? And what are the biggest concerns when finding a publisher?
Well, the biggest concern is licensing, because we have two parties involved into licensing.
And that is the White Wolf and Wizards of the Coast, am I right?
Correct. And especially for Wizards, we're small fish. So it's difficult. And how do I go about it? I talk to people I know and, work the back channels and try to establish something.
Okay. I guess there is a lot of company secrets involved within this, but would you say the chances are slim, or a bit greater than slim, or impossible? How would you state the chances?
And if there would be any chances,
for a while I can say that now. For a while I had a I saw a good chance of convincing White Wolf to keep on going. That didn't work out. Then for a while I was very skeptic about the possibility, and now there's 2 or 3 new developments which make it a fair chance. Yeah, I don't know, 20%, something like that.
Do you see it possible that it could be like the last time the game
I see
was
it possible and realistic, but still a long way round to get anything done.
How important would you say that it is for a company that Viken keeps up this work? Does it matter at all, or is it? How do you think a potential company would look upon a player organization as independent as Viken is now?
I don't know. It's really difficult to say. I think it depends a lot on the company, and I would say without any player organization, it's pretty impossible that any company picks this up, because A, there's nobody to talk to, and B, there's no visible interest into the game. I mean, they usually want to know, is there a business case? And if you can show them a forum with thousands of posts, and you can show them all those tournaments and so on, they can get an idea of a business case. If there's nothing, I mean, how do you prove there's a business case?
Okay, it's logical, makes sense, at least for me.
We had a question here that asks, basically it's, do you see Viken working being completely open? And I interpret this as like completely open, where every discussion is visible for every member.
The problem with that is not that we want to have any secrets, certainly not. The problem is if you make something public and it's a bit of a controversial subject, it usually tends to go into a huge number of posts, and it's going to eat everybody's time. You know, everybody who's involved has to read hundreds of posts, and it eats away a lot of time, and it's not getting different results than discussing the same thing with a handful of people. I could maybe see, you know, a situation where all those forums, the Inner Circle forum and the National Coordinator forum, are readable by anyone but not postable, except for the members. That could be a compromise, I don't know. But then maybe the people might just go ahead and copy and paste into the other forum, and we'd have the same situation. So for the goal of actually coming to a decision in some cases, you need a certain number of people to limit your scope to, else you never get any kind of coherent decision.
Do you think it would negatively impact the discussions that people, or the main decision takers, say the Inner Circle or national coordinators, would know that all their posts are being read?
No, I don't think so. There's really nothing where anybody would have to be ashamed of or afraid of that it gets, you know, public. It's really just the matter of how much do the people comment, and how is the usability of the whole thing if everybody participates.
So you're saying that it would have been unpractical to have that many people involved in decision making.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it tends to. I mean, in forums, everybody tends to have an opinion, even if you didn't check up on the facts, or you know, some people post good things, some people just post something, and some people get a kick out of, you know, posting something inflammatory and getting people angry, and I think it would be very destructive to the work of the VKN if we introduce all that factors into those discussions.
As a follow-up question, why is that the only point of having secrets within a certain body within the VKN, that the discussion might get too big and don't add anything, or are there any other reason to to keep stuff top secret or secret?
No, not really. If you have seen it, I've gone to the thread where Jeff posted his letter, and I've listed all the substantial topics from the Inner Circle forum to show people what is really discussed there. I think people think there's like 500 threads and there's tons of, secret information. There really isn't. There's a couple of essential things, which most of them, which are pretty obviously need to be discussed in a closed forum, and that's it really. And even more so for the national coordinators thing, because there it's like 100% about organization and about how do promos go from A to B, and how does my qualifier get organized, and how do we go about the EC, and all these things that are not really interesting to every player. I mean, the players just want to go to the EC. They don't want to discuss hours about it, how it's going to get organized. And frankly, the people who are putting the hundreds of hours in to organize stuff, they have the right to some privacy, and not also be on on the public board all the time.
Do you think this goes back to how you cannot motivate people with money in a voluntary organization?
Not necessarily. I mean, it goes back to the principles of every multi-tiered organization, be it a company or other volunteer organizations. There's always different tiers and layers of information and participation. It's I mean, look at football, look at the FIFA. It's the same thing. It's maybe not the best example since it's a corrupt crock of shit, but no matter where you look, it's really the same.
This is a kind of an elaborate question, so I'll try to walk you through it. There's a player who states that the IC, that is the Inner Circle, currently has two management roles. One being one being management and one being administrative. But he wonders who is in this team, the IC, is responsible for creating a vision or a strategy for organization. And furthermore, the player states as this is one of the most important part of leadership. When he wonders about the qualification for the person or the group that is responsible for creating a vision or a strategy. Did you follow?
Yeah. The vision and the strategy is a bit of a product. It's an open process. Everybody pitches in their ideas, and there's no. I mean, we don't have a 3-year plan, and we don't have a 5-year plan or something like that. There's no, no strategy that's set in stone. But sort of the vision is a group product out of the people there. And I think it's one of my responsibilities as the chairman to give that process a bit of guiding. But it's pretty obvious where we want to go. I mean, we want to keep the game alive, we want to keep the players in, and we want to make it interesting for a publisher. That's really it.
And how do the design team or the designing process and the decision to make a fan-based expansion? How did you reach that decision in the first place, making a fan-based expansion?
This is how it goes. A lot of the time, somebody had the idea. I actually forgot who, and he just pitched it in the forum. And then everybody started discussing, is it good, is it bad? And in the end, there was a consensus that it's a good thing to do this and to use it as a tool to keep interest in the game alive.
Okay. I have heard.
Is that the main Would you say that that's the main thing that initiated the thing, this forum discussion?
Well, not necessarily forum-only discussions. I mean, you meet people at tournaments and so on, so all kinds of discussions, be it forum, be it private, be it in person at tournaments, and all that.
Okay. It kind of comes together as a whole, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
This fan base said you needed a design team for it, obviously. What was the reasoning when you first off selected to have a team rather than one person, as it used to be during the Wolf era? And two, what criteria did you have for selecting design members and design leader?
So, why have a team? We're a volunteer, so I knew it was going to happen that the person loses interest or doesn't have time. So if I rely on one guy, it's very dangerous. So having a team would allow people to step back temporarily without endangering the whole process, because LSJ was paid to do it, and all of the members of the team were not. So this is one thing, and then two, I think a lot of the former because
we just lost you. The beginning of that sentence, we just lost
yeah.
you.
I thought we needed more input and more opinions than a one-man team can deliver. Because I thought a lot of the old sets and older sets have been underpowered, and there's a lot of cards which you can never use, and that hurts the game. And we want to do good cards, really strong cards, but we also don't want to go into a power creep mode where every new card is largely better than everything old. So you have to walk a very thin line, and I think that's easier if you have a group of people who are self-regulating among each other.
So, in a sense, that they have tried to keep each other on each other's toes, not to power creep. That's essentially the biggest part, yeah? Did I get that right?
And not to aim low, to not do the no power creep, but to stay right on the line between overpowered and underpowered. And also, I wanted to represent different types of players in the design team. So I wanted to have a good representation of the casual player who likes the wacky idea, and I wanted to have a representation of the very focused tournament player, and also I wanted to have representation of Kanon, of White Wolf, Kanon adherents. So all the different factors, bring them in together and make a strong team.
Would you say that those are the three biggest play groups? The one that's focused on role-playing, and the one that's focused on just hanging out with friends, and one who is a very competitive player? Or are there any other groups of players that might need representation, so to speak?
No, I think that's the three main groups.
After what criteria was these players selected, other than their belonging to one of these three groups?
Well, obviously any previous experience designing cards or doing something similar was appreciated. So three people, I think 3 people out of the team already did some kind of design work for Vitesse or other games. And then obviously canon knowledge was a point, so we tried to choose people who know about the canon. For example, I don't have a clue. I read 5 White Wolf books in my life. I wouldn't be nearly qualified to contribute meaningful stuff in that direction. And then we tried to choose them as, you know, experienced people. So everybody who's in there has several years of many of them more than 10 years of experience with VTest, and they have seen lots of things coming and going and the ups and downs. So I think I would characterize them as having a stable vision and view of the game.
Right.
And the leader, what criteria were the leader chosen?
Good question. I think there was no hard criteria. Basically, we had a lot of suggestions, or we had a couple of suggestions who should be on the design team. Then we brought it down to 5 people, and basically we asked, once we had the team, we asked everybody who wants to be the leader, and 2 or 3 people didn't want, and then we selected one of the remaining ones according to, there was no hard criteria. Every inner circle pitched their opinion, and then we came to an agreement.
What's the reasoning for keeping the designer's identity hidden or semi-hidden? Because I don't think there's been an open like posting of who are in the design team. How come they're...
Actually, I left it up to their discretion. Everyone in the design team was free to announce that he's part of the design team, and everyone on the design team still is.
Okay. What's the gain by doing that?
Well, I didn't want to intrude on their personal life, and I don't know. You all know the "Please, Mr. DJ, play that song" situation, and I figured once somebody is very, very closely related or identified to be part of the design team, he might be swamped with emails. Hey, I want this, I want that, or I don't know. I just wanted to leave it up to their decision. Do I want to be a public designer, or don't I?
Okay. There's a forum, or a sub-forum rather, on the Beacon.net forums for expansion ideas, card ideas. What purpose do that forum fill, so to speak, or what was the reasoning behind that?
I think all of the design team members read that forum on a very regular basis, and they use it for inspiration and for ideas to put into the design. So by all means, people who are interested in posting the ideas, keep them coming, because if I look at the current playtest files, there's lots of ideas out of that forum.
Okay, so they use that basically they read and they take an impression.
Yeah, that's my impression. I mean, I'm not them, and I never said do that, but I talked about it with them, and that's what they said. Yeah, and I from the cards I get the impression that's true.
Okay.
Moving on from the design team, how did you choose playtesters and playtest coordinator for this design, this expansion?
Yeah, there was an open application for playtesting, so everybody could put in an application, and everybody who put in a serious application was chosen. I think we have a quite unprecedented number of, 22 playtest groups. So basically, everybody who put in a decent application was chosen.
So 22 playtest groups, is that globally?
Yeah, globally.
And how many playtesters do you think that is?
Well, I don't know. Even if usually there's one of the prince or somebody who puts in for the group, and I don't know how many of his group are actively playtesting or just playing their regular deck against the playtest decks. So if I assume a number of let's say 3 to 4 interested people per group, we're talking about 60 to 80.
can't hear Johannes.
Would you mind? Do you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
Am I back?
Good. Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay, great.
Oh, okay. So if I do, by rule of thumb, I would say about 60 to 80 playtesters.
How do that stand compared to the White Wolf days? Do you know that?
Yeah, much more playtesters. Because from the get-go, we said when we do our own sets, it's going to be more community-based, and we're going to value the inputs of the playtesters more than they were valued before. I did playtesting in the White Wolf days, and you would get around and you would make a large number of comments, and then you would get around back and you were like, did the guy even read what I wrote? And then I asked you asked some of the other people who playtested, and they were like, we wrote the same thing, but nothing happened. And people, I think back in the White Wolf days, a lot of people were frustrated with playtesting because it never seemed to really lead to something. And for example, from the round 1 to the round 2, we changed half of the cards. Not like change a little bit, but remove them and put different ones. So playtesting is having a huge impact on the expansion.
Okay, cool. And the playtest coordinator, how about him? What's his role to start off? What is the purpose of having a playtest coordinator?
His role is to organize the whole playtest. Really, it's a very organizational role. Make sure every playtest group gets their encrypted PDFs to have the playtest, collect the results, remind people of deadlines. You know, just organizational. And then he's trying to distill all the playtest feedback into something to give to the design team. So what we didn't want is a completely open communication between playtesters and designers, because we felt that that would lead to the designers having to defend their designs and getting pity about every single card and saying, well, no, you tested wrong, it was intended this way and that way. You know, we wanted to have a feedback process where the design team has to eat the feedback without having possibility to comment on it, except for making different cards.
Okay, so the playtest coordinator's role is to be an advocate for the playtesters and making sure that the designers can't get personal. Am I getting it right?
No. He should be very organizational and very non-content involved. So his responsibility is to gather all the feedback and make a coherent document out of it. And you know, if 10 groups are saying the same thing, he's not putting 10 paragraphs in there. He's putting one summarized paragraph and said, this is what 10 groups said.
Okay, so very administrative duties, so to speak.
And I asked him to try to be as impartial as he can be. It's difficult, but I think he's trying very good.
And by what criteria was he elected?
I'd have to go back and check the forums. I'm not sure. I really don't know anymore.
But it seems like it's very professional. Also, well, it requires lots of expertise. If it's that much work.
It does. It does require expertise. So I mean, for me, for voting for him, definitely a factor was that he has been a long-time contributor, and that he did put in organizational work already, and that he's someone who never really disappeared from because he's a single point of failure. We have no backup for him. So he's one that has been constant here for all those years, and he has a lot of experience with the game, and he's a strong tournament player. So he rounds up a lot of those things, and he's someone who's not controversial.
Okay, Okay.
That's important. I played many games with him, and he has in the games and in the life always been a very compromising and nice to go along with person. That was important.
Because of the neutrality thing?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. I see. This question might come off as a bit leading, but I'll read it up loud. And this is about the Viken. As an organization which is based upon a game which is about intrigue, blackmail, and manipulation, that's Vitus, what step do you take to eliminate these characteristics in the inner workings of the Viken? I guess this refers back to the original letter by Jeff Kuta.
There's really nothing you can do against this type of thing, except rely on the common sense of everybody not to overdo it. I mean, in the real, Vitus is a very complex game, and it's a bit way of life in that you will learn lots of things that help you in your real life from Vitus, and so Vitus is affecting your life, and the other way around, your life is affecting Vitus. So it's a very living game. And some of it will always be in there, and I just rely on the common sense that people are not, deal breaking, weekend stuff, and that they just are a bit more serious and probably honest and those stuff than when playing Vitus.
Okay. So this goes back to the design team stuff. Leaving past issues behind, I guess referring to this exchange of very formal letters. How is the development of the upcoming Viken set going, and when is it coming, or is it continued already?
Yeah, it's continuing all the time. And there is still some tension in the design team, but we have a work mode which works for the moment, and we're about to release the round 2 of playtest. That's literally coming on today, I think, or tomorrow, and we're focusing on regrouping and finding the teamwork. So obviously now the team is down from 5 to 4, and we're going to leave it at that number for the moment. And I'm just counting on the 4 individual members to really leave any of those issues behind, and to look forward and to regroup and to work on it again. And that's what they're doing.
Okay, but it's working right now as it is. Oh, they're making progress.
We're making progress. There's still some discussion to be had about the whole issue and how do we do this in the future and so on. To be honest, when we started with designing the set, and everybody had no experience really in how would this go, and it's been everybody has been very naive about it. I mean, I thought it's a great opportunity and put 5 people to it, and in the end it's all going to be great. I didn't plan for it to become such a problematic situation, and we are learning as we go and trying to improve the process for the future, and creating rules and structures that avoid that type of problems.
Okay. So are you are you making documentation that should govern how the Viken go about with business? Or how much is oral and how much is written, so to speak?
No. We're writing very explicit description of design process now. out of all those experiences, and what exactly is the design team leader, what are his additional responsibilities compared to the other design team members, and so on. What kind of authority does he have, and all these kind of things.
Will this be publicized for all to see when they're done?
I didn't think about it, but I think it's a good idea. Yeah, there's really nothing preventing it.
When do you think we will see the set being released?
Well, we're moving to round 2 of playtest now. So I think we're gonna have the cards ready by summer, like the text. We're gonna have it ready by summer. The real bottleneck is gonna be the artwork. We need about
the artwork.
30, yeah, the artwork. We need about 30 pieces of original artwork, and we don't have a lot of money to throw around, so it's gonna be tough.
So you're still looking for artists?
Well, we're always looking for artists.
Okay. So if anyone happen to know someone who works for free or do work for himself for free, where should they turn?
They should contact Finesse, who extended his position as a website by directing the artwork as well. As most of us know, he's a studied teacher in fine arts, so he knows how this stuff is going, and he's taking care of it, and he's collecting all the drawings and giving feedback and giving out the art notes and so on. That's his, that's what he lives for, art. He paints and I think even if somebody is a bit of an aspiring painter, this is a great opportunity to learn something and to learn from people who are professionals or who have done this for a long time.
Do you accept, maybe you don't know the answer to this since you're not the art coordinator, but do you accept photographies or non-color sketches or?
Well, I'm pretty sure we would accept non-color sketches because there has been precedent of that. I'm not sure if we would accept straight, unmodified photography. Maybe it depends. A photograph has a very different look than a drawn picture, and it has to fit the look of the game. The card can't stand out among 100 other cards, so it needs a bit of a modified photograph. Christopher Shy.
Yes, because I know a lot of people really think this is important. I guess you noticed the Grey Shatterton discussion that started after Heirs to the Blood were released.
Which discussion again?
Grey Shatterton, the guy that made the new Bums Rush, the new Deflection, and the new, and the Diluvian Awakening. No,
I didn't read the discussion. Was it
He's very hated, I think, among the community because those pictures were deemed to be low quality. But since you haven't read the discussion, this was right after the release of Heirs to the Blood, so that's 2 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't read that one.
Okay.
I think this question is a bit timed, since how you now say that the set is coming along nicely, but were there ever any discussion of releasing the cards as they were when these problems, like the design process, was being problematic?
I can't see any purpose in doing that because it would spoil a lot of potential cards for future expansions, so not a good thing. And all the problems had really nothing to do with the cards. All the problems were just about, about personalities and the difficulties of working together.
All right.
So they were more of a communicational nature than like a strict card nature.
Yeah, it wasn't at all about cards. I mean, of course it was about cards, but it was about somebody saying this card is not good enough and somebody else being pissed about it.
Okay.
The card is not good enough, but or maybe it's good enough, or maybe it's hard to say, but it has nothing to do with the people being pissed about it.
Okay. Why have you decided to have a closed design process? This is not. This is a general question that a lot of popped up. Why have you elected to have a design team and a playtest group, and not a public design?
Because public design, I've not seen once in my lifetime something where public design works. People have cited often the example of open source software. But if you're really honest, open source software is not public design. Even if you look at a large project of software, it's just a handful of people working on it. Yes, in theory, everybody can check out the source code, but as source code is difficult and hard to read and it requires effort, people don't really do it. If you design cards publicly, you would have the same small number of people working on it seriously, but since it's easy to comment and all that, there would be hundreds of people, you know, trying to participate a little. But in a creative process, which should have a very good and very strong result, you can't have 100 people participating a little. You need focused and dedicated guys, and I think people underestimate the work that needs to go into making good cards. I mean, there's literally hundreds of hours that were going into this by those people. And I think, well, let me check, I think there's about, you know, there's 5 people, and I think there's about 5,000 posts on the design forum. So if I multiply that by, you know, the Vetus population, we would be at 50,000 posts, and who should read that? It's just impossible and eats too much time from everybody.
Okay, so you mean that the sheer amount of posting would be hard to overlook? Is that like one of the main issues? Am I interpreting you right?
Yeah, the sheer amount of posting, and then also the tendency of people to break out into off-topic discussions about how about this one guy is unreasonable and this guy is unreasonable and what do I care and I hate you all. So if you read the forums, that happens in almost every controversial thread, and we're already having the troubles with the 5 people. I don't want to imagine the troubles we are going to have with 500 people.
Okay. A bit of a subject change, but someone has sent us an email asking us how if there's any progress with the rating system, and is there a plan to get the ratings up and running, and where is this on the weekend's priority list?
Okay, the rating is a very good point. It's very high in the priority list. Unfortunately, not in the enthusiastic volunteer knocking at my door list. So we have people working on it, and we had a large rush of progress when the website was done. So actually, people may not notice, but the rating is up. The only part that's missing is the upload of the Archons. Everything else is there. We have the tournament calendar, and we have you can view the ratings. They're just not updated. So we have, since Christmas, we have a new team from Italy working on the upload function, and I noticed there has been good progress because I've been invited 3 weeks ago to upload Archons to test it. So I'm optimistic, and I'm gonna hope that we can move to public test phase soon.
So basically there's been a closed beta, so to speak.
There has been a closed alpha.
Closed alpha.
With very raw functionality.
But we will be using the Archon Excel document?
Yeah, absolutely. All you do is enter the number of players and upload the Excel file.
Alright.
So there will be less hassle than during the White Wolf days?
Yes, definitely. And that was a major interest of the thing. The problem is it was also the major problematic or the major issue to deal with, because that Excel format is just terrible.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Do you have any estimated the time of arrival for the ratings?
Being realistic, I'd say once the EC comes around, I think we can be confident that we can put the EC results into there.
So the winner of the EC will reap his reward in the rating system?
Yeah, I do think so, yeah.
Right.
Great news.
And I'm very frustrated that this took so long. But you know, life gets in the way, and I do think I have asked many times for people to come to me and offer their help, but only a few did.
Yeah, is that a point where you think the Beacon has the ability to improve the reaching out to the broad masses of the players, so to speak?
No, usually I don't have so much difficulties in finding volunteers. I think this is a very specific subject because it requires programming knowledge. Who has programming knowledge? People with an IT job. All the people with an IT job are usually quite fed up with their job once they go home, and a very tiny number of those people is interested into doing the same thing they've been doing all day in the evening. So all of the other volunteer positions are clearly related to your hobby. This one is usually related to your work, and it's not very interesting.
How many man-hours would you say that building the rating system would be in total?
Difficult. At least 100 or more. I think more.
Okay. Just me getting, since I'm really not an IT guy, I have no idea what big of effort it is for the Italian team to actually construct the software.
Yeah, they had to, first they had to learn how the framework works, that we use, the whole content management system and all that stuff, and then they had to learn how to pass Excel with their own code, because there's not really code out there that does it, and so this is a steep learning curve for them.
Okay. But the idea is basically take the Excel Archon document and upload it to the site, and that's that.
Correct.
And you got the database released from White Wolf, right? So old results will be in the new.
Yeah, they're already there.
Yeah. Just checking.
Is there anything else in the Beacon's pipeline?
Let me think. No, I mean, we have the EC fix for this year, which is very nice news. We have the NSC fixed since quite a while. We were able to produce qualifier shirts, which is good, I think.
Yes, nice. They were very nice.
We were able to secure product and promos for this and coming years. So, and no, that's about it.
Cool. I'm starting to run out of questions, actually, which might be obvious with me just stuttering.
No, I think that's all of our questions that we had asked to us.
Yeah, maybe this question, the designer's diary. How often do you intend to have it updated?
As well, me personally, more often. What I did, I asked the design team to agree on a fixed schedule and to update it, soon. And they're gonna update it soon, and then they're gonna post their schedule. So they're gonna decide on once a month or whatever they want, and then they will post in that fixed schedule.
How hands-on is the idea that the diary is going to be, or is it more general stuff? Will they go into specifics like game mechanical specific and those kinds of things?
More hands-on as the time gets on. So I imagine by the time we're continuing in the process, we're going to have some art previews and some sneak peek at cards and stuff like that.
All right, sounds good.
Sounds great. I think sneak peeks is awesome.
Okay.
Do you have any questions, Olam?
No, I feel like I'm ready to wrap this up if you guys are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
if you don't have any questions for us, Johannes?
Yeah, I have a question. How do you build all those good decks? I want to do that as well. Maybe I should watch the show when it's over.
I think a big part for me is that I don't work.
I just have to say thank you. You make me blush. Yeah, I think it's important being a student, or at least a student of the arts and not the sciences, makes it easier to find the time, so to speak.
All right. Yeah. No. I mean, I very much like what you're doing there, and I think having this regular show and kind of forcing yourself to a schedule, that's very good, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think this is really helping. Like, just for me personally, I think this is fun because it helps me think about the game so much. And even if you don't have the energy to talk about Vitas on the internet once a week, talking to your friends is just so helpful. I really like talking about Vitas. It helps so much for motivation with the game, like to actually play, and it also makes like the big ideas come to you when you talk to other people. I think that's a really big part of how the game is fun, is to talk about it.
Yeah, because of the incredibly complex structure of it. Yeah, should we wrap this up maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then I'll say thank you all for listening, and I'll say thank you to Johannes for participating in this almost 1.5 hour long interview, which is incredibly long, but that's usually how the story goes with us. We will post this on the Weekend Forums as usual. We will post this on YouTube, and you can email us any questions or ideas or comments on cause_effect@gmail.com or in the Weekend Forum. And remember to like us on Facebook and to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's everything for this time. Say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.